Hello everybody, Calvin Nation here today with another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about balisongs. Now you can see I have my balisong drawer open here today, and I am displaying my entire balisong collection up to this point. Now I think I have enough butterfly knives to kind of form a decent opinion on which ones are worth the price and which ones aren't. You know, which ones are good flippers and which ones aren't. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Hopefully I can kind of kill like 100 birds with one stone here, because I get messages every single day asking which balisong should so-and-so buy, and I will gladly keep responding to them, but it'll be easier to just refer them to this video. So if you have a question, hopefully this will answer it. If it doesn't answer it, definitely feel free to shoot me a PM. I will still very gladly help you with that. But it takes a lot of time to respond to these messages pretty much every day. And again, hopefully I can avoid that by making this video. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the Bradley Kimura. Now the number one most question I get asked by far is which balisong should I buy for around $100? Well, plain and simply, in my mind, it is the Bradley Kimura. Now why is that? Well, let's talk about that a little bit more. Now you can see here I have the Bradley Kimura 3 and the Bradley Kimura 5. Now one thing I want to get out of the way is these perform pretty much identically, at least to the point where you will not be able to tell any differences between them. So that is one thing I get asked a little bit too, is should I get the Kimura 3 or the Kimura 7? Well, get which one looks better to you. They perform pretty much identically, even with the different handles. So let's get that out of the way. Get which one you like the look of the most. Next is why you should get it for $100. Well, it's got a super solid construction. It looks great. And again, this is the Kimura 3. I believe these are in 14C28 stainless steel. I think that's the Sandvik steel. Some of them might be in 8CR13 and MOV, sorry. I'm not totally sure about that, but they come in a bead blast, both the handles and the blade. They look great, they perform excellently, and their construction is amazing. One example we can give here is check out the play in between the handles. That is phenomenal, especially for a $100 balisong. That is something us balisong guys really love in a balisong, is smooth flipping with little to no play. And that is amazing, again, in a $100 balisong. And if you keep good care of this thing, it will last you a lifetime for sure. And that is, again, something you don't see in a balisong that cheap. And here we have our T-latch, or our free-flowing latch, whatever you want to call it. That is, I guess, one downside to this, but a lot of us like it. Not a huge problem. You can see it does have that latch gate, so it will not come in contact with the blade, so you don't have to worry about that there. But the Kimura is an amazing balisong for the price. You are looking about at a, I think, 5.5 ounce blade or balisong, which is on the heavier side, but it creates very good balance. So once you get used to it, this thing will flip amazingly, but make sure you're safe. These things are the sharpest balisong that I own, both the Kimura 5 and the Kimura 3, so watch out for that. You guys can watch the video where I cut myself right here. You might be able to see that if it focuses. You can see a scar right here. I got 7 stitches from my Kimura 5. Another thing, bead blasted. Make sure you oil it so it doesn't rust. When you bead blast it, it opens the steel's pores, and it'll be able to rust a little bit easier. But I always say, if you're thinking about getting a balisong for around $30, $40, $50, don't. To be honest, just don't. Get a Kimura. And I am putting it a little bit bluntly, but in my opinion, the Kimura will trump any balisong lower in price, and they really did a good job with that. Now, I can keep talking about them a little bit further, but let's keep moving on. Another question I get asked is, should I get the Kimura or the 51? Well, comparing these two is kind of like comparing apples to oranges a little bit. You have the Kimura and the 51. The 51 retail, I believe, is $250, or at least was. On most online places, you will find it for probably around $225, whereas the Kimura, you will find it around $100. Now, what flips better? In my mind, the Benchmade Model 51. This is a lighter balisong. It's easier to flip. It might not even be quite as balanced as the Kimura, but it is, it's close. And it has great materials: titanium liners, anodized blue, G10 scales, D2 steel. But this balisong doesn't only just make a great flipper, it makes a great EDC knife. It has the pocket clip, of which the Kimura does not offer. It doesn't even have as good as handle play as the Kimura, you can see here, but it is good. Nothing to complain about there. Flips very, very smoothly, looks fantastic. I like the look better than the Kimura as well. But basically, why should you buy the 51 over the Kimura? Well, that only really comes down to what price you're willing to pay. On forums, you can find these used, sometimes new, for between $160 and $200. You'll likely find them on forums for probably $180 or more. But probably average price you'll find a 51 for is $180 to $200. So you could be paying $100 more than the Kimura for a balisong that flips similarly and performs well. But is it worth it? Well, again, are you willing to pay it? If so, then yes. If you have the money, I say go for the 51. But if you're really finding it a hard time to justify the price of a 51, a Kimura is really not a bad trade-off whatsoever. So that's something to think about there. Another question I get asked a lot is Benchmade Model 51 or Benchmade Model 42. Now, back in the day when the 42 was still in production, I guess this was kind of a valid thing to talk about, but right now it's kind of hard to compare again because the 42 is now out of production. The 42 you will now, sorry, I've been pointing at the 47, but the 42 is now out of production, and you will now find it for $350 to $500. Some people are paying ridiculous prices for them, and let's move this guy over here for a sec. And is that worth it? Well, to be honest, $350 to $400, definitely not. A 42 for $400, even $350, is ridiculous. I bought my 42 for $280, which is still really on the high point, and I do not regret paying $280 for it, but and in my mind it was worth that price. But is $350? No. So in that sense, is the Benchmade Model 51 more worth it than a 42 at $350? Yes. How well do they flip in comparison? Well, the 42 by far is the better flipper, and everyone will tell you that. It's way more well balanced. This is about 4.1 ounces. This is 3.3 ounces again, and you will have an easier time flipping the 42 than the Benchmade Model 51. But again, are you willing to pay that $350 or more for a 42? That's up to you. So keep that in mind. Again, like I said with the Kimura and the 51, if you're willing to pay that $350 and you really have no problem justifying it, then go for it. It's a great balisong. It'll only go up in price as the years go by, and you know what? It's a fun guy to have, and I really do not regret buying it. But I would say, even if you want to justify the price, or you're okay justifying the price, don't go over $400. Wait for it to get a bit lower. You'll find guys selling it for quite a bit cheaper here and there. Check on forums like Jersey Devil, the flipping arena, knife forums, blade forums, that kind of thing. You'll find them there for sale quite often, since a lot of these guys are still in circulation. And Benchmade does make limited runs of these quite often throughout the year. They actually use leftover parts, leftover titanium, and they make a couple runs of these every year. They did just a couple weeks ago, I believe. And just talk to your favorite knife dealer and see if they got one in stock. You can always talk to Benchmade to see too if they have one ready to ship out to a dealer, and they will be at $280 too, so that's a cool thing there. Okay, so what about one of the other Benchmade Model 4X knives compared to the Benchmade Model 42? Well, like the Kimuras, there's a lot of variations of the 4X knives, and they do all flip the same. So if you're willing to justify the price, then just go with the one that looks the best. But still, you're going to have to search through a lot of forums and a lot of posts to find one of these up for sale. These are getting a lot more rarer and rarer, and I was lucky enough to pick up the 47. I got this guy for about $400, and like I said, I was willing to justify that amount of money, so I got it. And these two do flip very similarly. This one is older, so there are a few things that are different. I did do a comparison on them. You guys can check that out. But are you willing to justify an extra $100 to $200 more for another one of the 4X knives other than the 42? That's up to you. Now keep in mind though, there is a couple of these models or variations that do differ in performance. There are some stainless steel models. They will have the SS behind them. There's the 41 SS, there's the 41 MC, the 47 MC, the 43 MC. The MC means pocket clip on them, I believe. And if they're not titanium, they will perform a little bit differently. If they are titanium, even with that pocket clip, you're looking at pretty much the exact same performance. So I'm not going to go too much further with the 4X series. Just bottom line again is, are you willing to pay the money for it? If so, a 46, a 47, a 43, 41, they might do you good, and you will have a rare knife on your hands if you can afford it. So again, check the forums for those, and you might find one for sale. They are cool knives to own. Okay, so moving along to the Benchmade Model 53. Should you buy it? Well, it depends. Do you want a flipper or a user? If you want a user, well, maybe, but if you want a flipper, no, definitely not. This is by far one of the worst flippers out there in production right now. If you want to get a better look on how badly it flips, check out Knifezoid's review on that. He gives it about a 2 out of 10 for flippability. I would probably say around the same. It really doesn't perform well at all, in the flipping side of things. But EDC, is it good? Well, it's good, but it's not great. There is a couple design flaws that Knifezoid does go over, but it does offer a pretty good blade. Has the D2 tool steel, which keeps an edge for a long time. It's very, very hard, very, very sharp, full flat grind, pretty thin, medium-sized blade stock. Has some jimping there that most balisongs do not have. But another thing that I guess does kind of help with the EDC side of things and hinders the flipping side of things is the bearing system. Now the 53 has the bearing system that Charles Marlowe, who designed this knife, uses in a lot of his own balisongs, where the blade actually rolls on, I believe, multiple ball bearings that are very tiny, which makes it like amazingly quick. And it also reduces play by a lot, and there actually is zero play. You can see there when I move it, it literally just twists the knife, but it's still very, very smooth. On normal balisongs, if there was no play here, the blade wouldn't even move. And that is one cool thing, but does it help flippability? No, it hinders it. And because this is so light and there's so little weight in the handles, it actually flies around even faster, which causes even more, unreliability in the flipping side of things. And that's one thing to think about. So if you want a flipper and you're looking at the 53, then just stop right there. Don't even bother. if you're looking for that EDC balisong, this is probably the best EDC balisong you can go for, but there aren't too many of those out in the market. You could design a way better EDC knife than this one, and Benchmade actually kind of did. They released the Benchmade model Mayhem, or sorry, the Bradley Mayhem a little while back, and according to a lot of people, that beats the 53 in so many ways except the price. The only really thing that benefits the 53 is its price. Now, you're looking at about 150. I bet when these start hitting the market, or the secondary market, sorry, you'll probably be looking at anywhere between 100 and 130. So these are pretty cheap for a Benchmade balisong, and that's one thing to think about. But you might even be wondering, Calvin, why did you buy it? Well, I bought it because I actually had some leftover prize money from a Balio contest I won. You guys can check that out. Maybe I'll post a link in the description as well. But I won $500 from one of those tournaments. I won 3 of those tournaments. I had some leftover money, and I actually bought these 2 here with the leftover money. So I felt alright justifying the price for these because it really wasn't even my money, right? It was just prize money. So I bought these 2, and I am very happy with the 32, but not so happy with the 53, and that's understandable. But I don't regret buying it because it was prize money. So that's alright there. But really, I recommend not even getting this knife. Sorry, Benchmade, but even if you're looking for an EDC, you could even go with the 32. It even makes a better flipper than the 53, and you could even go for the 51. They both are great flippers, great EDC knives, great for use, but you know, the best thing about them is they're best of both worlds, and that's one thing that the 53 does not have whatsoever. So on that sense, should you get the 53 or the 32? Well, there's actually something that I found that's actually kind of funny about this. Check out the size of those 2. For some reason, I always thought the 53 was like the size of a 42 for some reason, but when you really put them together, they're pretty much identical in size. You can see the 53 maybe has a 1/4 inch of length on the 32. So what do you want? The 32 or the 53? And again, that all goes up to what price you're willing to pay. But the 32 is great for EDC, a great flipper, and it just kills the 53 in pretty much every way. The only thing that the 53 has over the 32 is the full flat grind. So again, think about that. And then also you have your 51. So, you know, which one of those do you want? It's a pretty hard decision. But again, 51, great flipper. Okay, well, I guess the only thing I really haven't talked about yet is the small fly. Now, I have cut this a few times, so I don't know how long this is going. I can tell it's going to be pretty long, so I don't want to go too much longer. Okay, so I think the last thing I want to briefly talk about is the Spyderco small fly. Now, like the 32, the small fly is a miniature balisong. Now, why does one want a small balisong? Well, in my opinion, I believe there's kind of 2 parts. One is EDC, and I talked about with the 32 and the 53, but also I think there's the novelty side of things. Both flippers and collectors alike, in my opinion, probably get the smaller balisongs either for that EDC purpose or for novelty, and that's kind of why I bought the small fly and the 32, is for novelty. I think they're actually both good flippers, but no matter what, these are not going to be as good flippers as their larger counterparts, that being the Spyderfly for the small fly and the 51 for the 32. You're just not going to get near as good performance out of these smaller ones, but you're going to get better EDC. I would say the 32 is better EDC than the 51. The small fly is way better of an EDC than the Spyderfly. And I believe actually with both of these, they were both actually created before their larger counterparts. The 32 was out before the 51, And I don't think the small fly was out before the spider fly, but in talking to Eric Lesser, who designed them, he actually mentioned that the small fly was one he actually designed before the spider fly. But anyway, why should you get a small balisong? Well, again, EDC or novelty. I got both of these because I really liked how they look, and being in Canada, really I can't use these as EDC. And like I said, they are both good flippers, but again, for me, it comes down to novelty, and these are just kind of both a part of my collection, and I both really like them. So in that sense, should you buy a small fly or a 32 over a Kimura? Well, do you want to flip, or do you want to collect, or do you want to EDC? If you want to EDC, these two. If you want to collect, these two. If you want to flip, the Kimura, definitely. So I think that's all I'll talk about for the smaller balisongs. I could keep going on, and I know I left out a ton of things here, and you'll just have to message me again if I left something out. So let's go over a quick recap again. Kimura is the best for $100, definitely, by far. Kimura or 51? Well, depends on what you want to pay. Both good flippers, different materials, different price ranges. What is your price point? 51 or 42? Well, again, it depends on the price. The 42 is a better flipper, but do you want to spend the extra $100 on it? 51, great for EDC, also good for flipping. It's a pretty hard choice, so keep that in mind as well. Again, like I said with the 42 and the 47, both very similar flippers, both pretty much identical but with different blade shapes. Get which one looks better to you if you are willing to spend the money. If you're only willing to spend the amount of money that the 32 is going for, which is anywhere between $300 and $400, go with the 42. If you are willing to get something like the 47 and you happen to like the blade shape better, and you are also willing to pay that extra $100 to $200, go for a 47 or a 43, 41, so on. And you know what? I guess that's it. 53, stay away from it. To be honest, I think you'd be pretty safe to just leave that out of your collection for now. And again, like I said with these two, they're collectors. Maybe that's why you want to get this, and that's actually why I got this as well. Like I said, I did get that with my prize money, and that's the only reason why. But again, even the only reason why I got that, even with the prize money, is because I knew that this would be a collectible instead of a flipper, and that was very true. So if I left anything out, leave me some questions or some comments, PM me, and if you haven't seen this video yet, and you've messaged me, you will be soon watching this video, because I will have sent you to this, because I got so many messages asking me about which balisong you should buy. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully it wasn't super long and boring, but I definitely needed to get this video out of the way. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate your time. Again, if I left anything out, let me know. Thanks for watching, and take care, guys. See you for the next video.